On this for the guitar classes, we do acoustic and electric. Like I said, we kind of tried out several different systems. There's pros and cons to both. I kind of made this and tested it out, and I think this is going to work really well for everybody. Try to make it as quick to set up and break down as you possibly can. I'll just kind of go over it really quick. We'll just imagine that this stuff is plugged in. Put your creative thinking caps on. Basically, this is just it'll be zipped up. You got a pocket here that you can put folder, like little papers, whatever materials you need to put in there. It'll fit right in there. Probably just have like a compartmentalized binder or something like that. I hope this doesn't fall on me during the demo. That'll be just perfect. Basically, you roll this thing in there. It doesn't weigh very much. This is the centerpiece of everything. We use snake cables for the electric kids. What I do in my classes that kind of worked out good is I usually will put the electric players up front so that you don't have cables running all over the place. But basically, one problem we had last year with the snake cables, come on now, is that they get tangled up. It'd always be tripping, it's kind of a nightmare. This hoping will clear all that up. You just basically have this clip, take this clip off, unwind it. You've got the snake cable like this, and there's another little clip at the end. You just slide that down when you need to feed it out to the kids. So you would just, like if you guys were all electric players, usually you set all the electrics in the first. If you can't fit everybody in the first row, then second row with electric players as well, and just give everybody a cable. When you're done with it, when you pack up, you just reverse the process, slide this thing to the end, and then roll it up real quick. Clip it with this, and put it back in here. So both of those come out that way. It's like 30 seconds a minute to do it.
With the mixers and everything in there, everything is 100% plugged in, ready to go.
Yeah.
All you have to do is plug the strip outlet in the back.
Yeah,
turn
I'll
it
show
on,
you
and
what's
you're
in the
good to
back
go.
here. You got two little mixers. Each one of them is 8 channels. I'll kind of go over more troubleshooting stuff with these later, like go over it in a little bit more detail, because there's going to be times where you accidentally unplug something or something's not working. It's inevitable at some point. So we'll kind of go over troubleshooting. Usually I found troubleshooting stuff, and I had a funny incident with my computer yesterday. It's a good example of this. The first thing you want to check is something really stupid and simple. Is it turned on? Is it plugged in? Because that's usually what it turns out to be. I had a scenario with my computer yesterday where it was going completely haywire. I couldn't figure out what it was. I spent an hour and a half trying to do every possible thing I knew to fix it. And it turned out to be a wireless keyboard that was connected to it with a book playing on top of it. So it was sending a key message constantly. And I thought the computer was just completely freaking out. I lift the book up, the problem's completely gone. So, as an example, some of those things are going to happen where it's just going to seem like you don't want to rip your hair out. Just check this simple stuff first. Make sure the mixers are turned on. Make sure it's plugged in. Make sure the cables plugged in properly. So you basically got two 8-channel mixers. So you can run up to 16 electric students off of that. If you need to plug in your guitar to one of the channels, you can do that, and that kind of works out pretty well. What I normally do is just leave all the individual channels for the students at the same level. Or if you're plugging into, say if you need to use one of the channels for an electric guitar, you can just plug yourself into one channel, turn that up louder than all the other ones, and just keep all the other faders balanced to the same level, so no kid's really louder than the other. Now that being said, there's going to be some difference, some variation in pickups with guitars, especially if kids bring in their own. If some kid brings in a guitar with a really powerful humbucker, he's going to blast everybody else out in the water. So in that case, find the color cable he's using, come up here, and we'll turn that channel down. So it's not, really yeah. There's one cable that comes out of the back of this, plugs into the first or second channel. Really going to be best to just probably leave it plugged in all the time, because there's no reason to unplug it. I'll go over in more detail where all the little individual knobs should be set, but it's pretty easy. You've got a master volume here. This system actually gets pretty loud, like way louder than you need it from normal classes. So in most cases, you know, 1 or 2 is probably going to be loud enough for it as far as the master volume. You've got this little plug-in right here. It's just an RCA cable. It's going to my computer, but normally you just run an iPod in there. So we'll have all the cables and everything ready for that. So you just plug in your iPod, adjust the level on that, and then use that to balance between the level of the iPod and the kids playing. The good thing about this is that when the electric players are playing, and if they're getting out of hand, if they're getting too loud, or if somebody's not being respectful, you just turn their channel down, and you turn everybody down all at once, which is a good power trip, and it kind of reinforces that they have to be respectful of the volume. Especially, I always tell them right off the bat, one person will ruin it for everybody. So if there's one kid that just can't stop annihilating the strings, then you make it a point, and the kids will kind of keep each other in check in that way too. They're like, hey, stop playing right now, the teacher's talking. So it kind of helps with that.
You can tell them also right off the bat, using the amp is a privilege,
yes,
not a right. They earn it. If they abuse it, it gets taken away. And that'll usually, one time of turning it off and letting them sweat it out for 5 minutes, well, most of the time fixes it.
Yeah, that normally fixes it. And now that being said, you don't want to, kids with electric guitars, they're going to want to play them. It's pretty hard to resist. I've been a hypocrite before and sat there and noodled when I shouldn't, so it's, don't, freak out on them for wanting to play their instrument, but they have to be respectful to teach when they're talking and everything. I found one as a teaching technique, a dramatic fade out works really well. So like instead of just turning the volume down really quick, just make it really apparent, just, kind of a sarcastic, just so that they can see everything's getting turned down, and then they usually will get quiet after that and kind of get themselves in check. I think that's it for me right now.
Should we go over setup of piano?
Yeah, if you want to go over that.
Okay, for the piano classes, these are going to be the keyboards that they're going to use in class. Now, most of the kids that are going to take it are probably going to have a keyboard or piano at home to practice on. These are not going to be set home to practice. The kids will have an option. If they do not have a keyboard or piano, we will send them home with an actual keyboard that they will take home the first day of school. They leave it at home, and then so every day that when they come into class, the teacher will just have enough of these for everybody to use. They're not going to bring them back and forth, because they're great for class and for getting the kids to expose to it, but they really need an actual keyboard to practice on. And it's basically really simple setup. They're going to be all in the case, and you just pull them out, roll them up, and you're good to go. So they fit pretty well on just a regular classroom desk. So if you have a classroom desk set up or tables, you just kind of set them up. And their book, which is currently being written, but we have the first 2 pages here. You can actually take the book and they just kind of put it underneath like that, and then that way it doesn't take too much up of the desk. They can see what they're working on, turn pages, just kind of pull it out farther as you go down the page, whatever on it. But for that, they are battery operated, which is good. You don't have to plug it in, and the batteries actually last quite a long time. You want to make sure though that you always turn them off. And during class, we've done a couple of the piano classes over summer. And anytime if I'm talking or if I'm telling them something, I just let them know, okay, everybody click yours off. If it's not your turn, you're going to turn it off. Because I know as the guitar teachers can tell with the amps, changing batteries all the time, it's not fun. But these last a lot longer because there's a lot less going on with it than you have going on with an amp. And even if it's left on, it's just powering the little light thing, so it's not a lot. But so you do want to do that. You'll have extra batteries and a little screwdriver because it does need a screwdriver there. It would be best to check them before you go to class. Just make sure every week or so, make sure everything's running good. If you want to change the battery out, it'd be better to do it before you go to class rather than just